give them cash to manage. It doesn't have to be an allowance. I'm not a fan of an allowance. We do basic chores in the home because we're a member of the family and we're supposed to. Then anything over and above that is a commission-based incentive. So if you're helping out in extra ways, there's certain things you can be paid for. Like if you want to detail my car for me, it's going to save me a lot of money versus going to the car detailer. So you're going to earn more than you would by making your bed every day, for example, if that was something you were paying for. So you can decide like commissionable jobs. But then what I do over and above that is when my children do a commissionable job with a really great attitude or without being asked, they get a bonus.
Hmm.
And that lights them up more than anything else. So they're high support, but there's high expectations.
So I'm headed to a family reunion very soon. And shocker, I was asked to be the activities coordinator.
I have to break it to you. Sorry. I know you think you were asked, but I think sometimes in family dynamics, they're like, she's going to be the family coordinator anyway. Let's just make this easy on all of us.
Oh no, did I bring this on myself?
Did you get yourself a hat and a whistle?
I'm probably going to have a clipboard and I'm going to have like a tote for all of my supplies. I'll probably have all of that. I'm just trying to put together some ideas and stuff. I need some ideas. Have you seen any cool, fun games that I could play with my family? I need some new things because I feel like I've done them all in the past. And so it's hard to find new ideas.
The only thing that I've seen recently online that I think would be fun
Yeah.
is those dissolvable swimsuits that you give them to all the males in the family. Tell them we're all going to play water volleyball. And then all the women on the side of the pool can cackle with laughter as they all try and figure out what just happened to their bottoms.
Have you met my family? This is a terrible idea.
Where is the reunion?
We're just in a small town and we're at a hall and some people are camping and my
Nice.
family's all staying in an Airbnb together and we're just meeting up and eating meals and hanging out for 3 days.
Is this on your mom's side or your dad's side?
Dad's side. So
Oh,
here's the thing is the last time we did this was quite a few years ago and we did the full family Olympics. We had themes and I had people break into teams and it was competitive. We went so far as to play some game and I can't remember the specifics. All I remember is that my dad has 4 brothers. So the 5 guys, the patriarchs of the family, right, are all sitting on these chairs and they were all like the team captains for each of the teams that we had. And something about the game, we had to put shaving cream on their heads and then we were throwing Cheetos at them or something. But it got dangerous for a game that was supposed to be fun. One uncle fell off a chair. And so everybody is a little worried because we're all a lot older, especially those uncles. And we have to be cognizant of hips whilst planning these games now. So the dissolvable shorts, whilst funny, mm, is not a great look for them. And so I need something a little more PG. Okay.
Hey Erin, hey Carrie. This is Kumiko. I have a question about teaching your kids about money. I recently opened up checking accounts and high yield savings accounts for my kids, and I'm wondering what other things I should be focusing on to set them up for financial success. I know, Erin, you offer a course on how to teach kids about money, but I wanted to find out what that program is all about, how it's formatted, and if it would be appropriate for all 4 of my kids. I have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old, all who have very different money mindsets. Hoping that I can set them up on a good path, the way the Get the Hell Out of Debt community and you guys have done for me.
I love this question so much because you know how much I love your kids and money course.
I just know how much you love kids and how much you love families and how much you love everything to do with the people that mean the most to us. So I think that's so cool. And I know who Kumiko is. I'm sure she knows that I know who she is because I've, engaged with her a little bit on calls we've done and in the online community that we have for Get the Hell Out of Debt. But I know she's an incredible mom. I don't think I realized she had 4 kids though. That's cool and new. I knew she had a bunch of kids, but I don't think I realized how many. So I think this is so cool. So here's what you need to know, Kumiko. You're already doing everything really well because you've got the kids each their own checking and their own high yield savings, which is a great place to start. I know now that as a parent, sometimes what we want to do is we want to rescue our children from the mistakes that we made so we can give them a better head start. And I love that you've already identified that each of these kids has their own money story and their own money personality. That's so important to do because you're going to have to actually teach them not all one way. You're going to have to teach them each in the way that they learn based on their own money psychology. I can be a money expert, but you are an expert on those kids. And so you're going to do a much better job of this intuitively than anything I could teach you. But I'll give you a bit of a framework anyway, because I think it will be helpful.
That is tricky to teach them all different because they are different humans. All their little brains work different. And Kamiko, I only have two and it's hard with two. So I can't wait for this course to help you because you're going to get what you need and get a good foundation to get these kids set up for success.
Yes. And Kumiko, the online course called How to Teach Your Kids About Money, it's $99, but we're going to gift it to you for free because you've already done so much work for your kids and we want to see you succeed. So Carrie will hook up with you and make sure that that course is in your portal for you, ready to go as our gift to you. What's cool about you doing this with the 16-year-old is you're going to have to almost cram a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And with your 6-year-old, you're going to have a lot more time. So your 6-year-old is going to get a lot of spaced repetition when it comes to money. So the consistency piece is going to be really critical for the 6 and 8-year-olds. When you're teaching all of your kids about money, the most important thing is you have to know the outcome. And so we teach that course in reverse. We actually teach it, and your kids can start to learn about money from the time they're tiny toddlers. But what we want to do is we want to teach them with an outcome in mind. And a lot of parents don't have an outcome. So they'll just start teaching their kids like random money concepts. But as you learn in the Get the Hell Out of Debt program, even to get out of debt, things have to be done in a sequence. So I've often said, if I just gave you a bunch of random numbers and said, here's all the numbers that will open this safe, and inside is $1 million, but I give them all to you in the wrong sequence, you're not going to be able to get at that money. And it's the same with teaching your kids about money. If you're just teaching them random stuff here and there and they can't find the thread that connects it all, then they're going to have some struggles. So it's not just about spending and saving. It's ultimately about building wealth and how to actually build financial freedom. So you're going to start with the end in mind, which is teaching them that some of their money that they're going to earn isn't for saving, which is pretty much where most parents end. Some of their money that they're going to put aside becomes their money bunnies, or as our friend Mel Abraham would say, the money machine, meaning that they're going to put aside money at the age of 6 that when they're 98 years old is going to continue to compound and they're going to live off the interest of some of that money.
Mm-hmm.
Most parents, what they do is they say, here's some spending money, which you're allowed to blow at any time. And then if you want a bike or a car or something, you got to save up for it. And that's it. But you're going to go well beyond that. And you're going to teach them that out of every dollar, there are pennies that are associated with different aspects of their life. So yes, some of it is for spending and for living, and some of it is for delayed gratification and bicycles and Pokemon cards or whatever the kids are into these days. And some of it is for long-term wealth building. So the entire program is built for 18-year-olds backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to figure out how to launch an adult into adulthood. And then you're going to work backwards based on how old your kids are for whatever's age appropriate for them. That's going to connect them with that ultimate outcome. So for your 16-year-old right now, what we're going to prep the 16-year-old to do is we're going to make sure they understand how to manage their cash flow and how to pay rent and how to pay utilities and how to do all the things they need to do in order to be a functioning adult. And then along the way, wherever you notice there's gaps, you're going to fill it in with the other lessons. What you might teach a 12-year-old is how compounding even works. What you might teach an 8-year-old is the difference between credit cards and using a debit card. And you're going to just make sure that by the time the kids are 18, they have every lesson that's in the How to Teach Your Kids About Money concept, but you're going to do it backwards. So you're going to start with the outcome that you want, and then you're going to add up all the sequences of little lessons that you need that will get them the result. Now, the key is, I know you said, is this appropriate for my 6, 8, 14, and 16-year-old? It's not appropriate for any of them. This course is designed for you, the grown-up. I know a lot of people think, I'll buy this course and I'll plunk my kids in front of it and they'll learn. That's not what's going to happen here. We are modeling for our children at all times. And what you model is going to be more important than what you say or even what you tell them other people want them to do. How you handle money is going to be the greatest influence on their lives. And so even by you explaining some of the mistakes you've made, or even in the moment when you make a mistake, if you go over budget and you're at the grocery store, you're like, oh no, I was only going to spend $200 and this is 202. Let me just figure out how I'm going to make this work. And you talk openly about, how am I going to come up with the other $2? Do I need to put something back? Do I need to find a coupon? Do I need to find other ways to trim $2 out of a different category and make it work that way? Whatever you decide to do, you're going to speak out loud and in front of the kids. And there's all kinds of things you can do. This could actually even work for your 6-year-olds, but there's all kinds of things you can even do. Like if it's summer for you, or you're getting ready to send them back to school in August or September, you can start preparing them with little things. Rather than you go get all the groceries all the time, why don't you give them each a certain budget of $15 for snacks every week? And every Sunday, y'all load in the car and they get to spend their $15 on snacks. And if they don't, if they spend $9.99, then they get to keep the 501. If they blow the 15 every month and they're blowing through their snacks, then we got to have a conversation about potential chores or budgets or all kinds of things. But you can start to give them lessons really early that are impactful, but that aren't devastating if they make a mistake. And the whole journey of teaching kids about money is all about allowing a lot of money mistakes while they're young and teaching them behavioral and habit changes that are going to add up to long-term investment returns when they're older. But what most parents do, Kumiko, is they try and save their kids from making mistakes. They try and swoop in and have everything go perfectly for the kids. And the best thing you can do is teach them cash flow management. So it's not just about opening the checking account and not just about opening a savings account. It's about giving them access to money so they can build habits and disciplines and they understand how dollars and cents work. Do you want more? I know you do. Why wouldn't you want more?
More what? What do I want more of?
More of this. Come hang out in the online course for Get the Hell Out of Debt. The link is in the description. You just got to click it, sign up, and we'll see you in there.
One of my favorite things that you've talked about before was when your one kiddo needed money and you taught him about interest because it was a loan. He didn't have it and didn't have time to do a job to earn it. And so he wanted a loan. And I love that he learned that lesson and he was like, this is not worth it.
He was 4 years old. He was in debt. And so in order to pay off the debt, he had to do all kinds of big people chores. And I purposely, listen, this is manipulative, okay? I'm not saying this is great parenting, but I wanted him to get this lesson in his bones. And I wanted him to understand that as a family, we do not go into debt and we need to model that for other people. So it's not just about mom not going into debt and teaching people. It's about, as a family, we need to model this. Now, I'm not convinced my children will never go into debt because they're free thinking human beings. And at some point they might rebel and go, like you'll tell your kids to do something and then they purposely do the opposite just to test and see. That could happen at one point and my kids could end up in a ton of credit card debt. I don't know. But I wanted to get it in his DNA as early as possible, what debt actually was. So we had a vacuum flow system in that house and I made him vacuum flow the entire house. Do you know how difficult it is for a 4-year-old to manage the hose?
It's difficult for me, never mind a 4-year-old.
He's tangled up in it and the suction's getting stuck to his leg. And he's like, this is hard. And I'm like, repeat after me. I hate debt. He's like, I hate debt. And I'm like, I will not borrow for liabilities. I will not borrow for liabilities. And he's like vacuuming. And I'm like, you missed a spot over there. Like it was like a really intense lesson. But to this day, he's never borrowed a penny or asked to borrow money or spend money that he doesn't have. And he is constantly looking at his investments. He has a net worth spreadsheet. He knows what's going on. And I'm hopeful that the lessons will stick in the long term, but he also watches me and he hears me talking to you and he hears me talking to other people in the program and he hears the pain in people's voices when they're expressing the mistakes that they've made. So I'm not trying to save him from any of that or shelter him from any of that. I'm trying to expose him to that so he sees it and he understands it in a visceral way. And of course, we have to keep everything age appropriate all the time. So I've seen parents, especially parents of privilege, who are like, I'm going to get my kid a credit card so they can start building good credit at 16. Not me. I'm like, why don't you just give them an STD while you're at it? Just like, here, lick this toilet bowl. What are you doing? So when we're parenting, there's a grid And the axis is support and expectations. So you can have high expectations of your children, but you must give them high support if you want them to succeed. And then eventually, if you have high expectations and they're doing really well and you're supporting them, you can drop your support down, and that's what builds independence.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have low expectations of your kids and high support, then you're helicopter parenting them and they're not learning to do anything for themselves. If you have low expectations and low support, that affects their self-esteem. They don't have any expectations of themselves. They're not accomplishing anything. They're not striving for anything. And just like if you have high expectations and low support, you're setting them up to fail. So what we want is high expectations. This is how money works. These are my expectations of you. I want you to increase the amount of money in your investment account. I want you to be putting money away into your high yield savings account. I want you to be doing all of this every month without fail. But I'm also going to support you in that if you want to earn money, I'm going to help you find a way to do it. I'm not going to call employers for you, and I'm not going to walk dogs for you or do a paper route for you or any of that stuff. I'm going to support you in finding a way for our family to be able to support you in all of this so you can learn these lessons on your own. So we want to keep that in mind. But the most important piece, if you were to walk away with one thing, and I'll give you some other tips in a minute here, but if you're to walk away with one thing, it's give them cash to manage. It doesn't have to be an allowance. I'm not a fan of an allowance. We do basic chores in the home because we're a member of the family and we're supposed to. Then anything over and above that is a commission-based incentive. So if you're helping out in extra ways, there's certain things you can be paid for. If you want to detail my car for me, it's going to save me a lot of money versus going to the car detailer. So you're going to earn more than you would by making your bed every day, for example, if that was something you were paying for. So you can decide commissionable jobs. But then what I do over and above that is when my children do a commissionable job with a really great attitude or without being asked, they get a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And that lights them up more than anything else. So they're high support, but there's high expectations, right? So they tend to do their chores with a better attitude over time because they're like, what if she's watching? Let's go above and beyond. So you're going to do all those kinds of things all the time, but you've got to have them managing cash, even your 6-year-old. So if your 6-year-old pulls out a $20 bill from their wallet and they go to the ice cream truck and they buy their ice cream and they come back and they realize they've lost their change, that is one of the greatest life lessons. Honestly, losing that $15 is truly a gift. And I don't want you to like snatch $15 from your kids and be like, I'll teach you a lesson. That's what we're trying to do here. But allowing them the natural consequences of their decisions and learning that at 15 is so much more valuable than a grown-up who doesn't figure out until they're 45 years old what their credit card interest has cost them because they weren't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So teaching them all of the lessons that they can learn under the safety of your roof and the food that you're providing in a safe home where they can get those money lessons in an environment that allows them to grow is the greatest gift you can give them. So giving them cash to manage and letting them manage it based on their own personalities is going to be really important, and not comparing your kids to each other, because you're going to have one that's a natural saver or you're going to have one that looks like a spender, and they're not a spender or a saver. So don't label them. Don't say, oh, you're a spender or you're a saver. It's a continuum. They just look like a spender next to the one that never spends anything. But both pieces are important, and the saver isn't necessarily better because people who grow up just saving money often don't take risks. And if we want to invest and have that money compound, we got to be comfortable with a certain level of risk. So you also have to allow all that to happen.
The labeling thing. Thank you for that reminder. I need to clock that one in there. Also, I'm pretty sure my 14-year-old is just downstairs listening to Auntie Erin. Hey, did you hear that?
No.
Auntie Erin again.
It's good to hear it though from someone else rather than just me. But I find like some of our best conversations, we just had one last night. I was watching that Netflix show about real estate in New York.
Mhm.
And the boys were both watching a little bit of it with me. And then we got talking about mortgages and total cost of borrowing. And we were talking about all the things, but they wouldn't have listened to that if we hadn't already been watching something about it. Like they were shocked at the value of the homes in New York. So we started talking about what our home is worth and what we bought it for. And it was a great conversation. It was good when it was like real life. It was based on something that was happening in and around us.
Yeah. And that just reminded me, another important point to make though, when you are talking to your kids about money, is having them understand the importance of privacy. So money conversations, while we want to be open with them, they're not playground appropriate conversations. It's not appropriate for them to go, my parents have this much money, or my house is worth this much money. What's your house worth? That's inappropriate conversations for young people, but it's important for them to know what is private and what's not private. And kids like to talk about money. It's fascinating for kids. So they like to say, I have this much in my bank account. How much do you have? But there's a difference between oversharing and putting yourself at risk. And so having them also understand the risks of people having too much access to your personal information, identity theft or fraud, or not sharing their online banking passwords and all of those things. Those are important conversations so that they clearly understand where the line is on what's appropriate to share and what's not appropriate to share.
I have a question about how to have conversations with your kids about when their friends seem to have more money than they do, and when Bob's showing up at McDonald's and he seems like he has unlimited cash to buy all the French fries he wants, where mine's actually got to count his money and figure out what he can afford on that trip to McDonald's.
So Bob's going to be broke, so it's fine in 10 years. I'm mostly kidding. I think it's okay once in a while to send your kids out with a $50 bill and let them treat all their friends to McDonald's and have some fun once in a while, if that fits in your budget as a family and you want to do that. But if you're constantly sending your kids out, you're actually enabling them in a really terrible, disempowering way, because they aren't learning the lessons that your son is experiencing. So your kids aren't going to see it that way. It's not going to look like a gift. But we have to make it clear to them that not all families teach their kids about money. So not all families teach their kids about what success looks like. And if your friend who has this money, if you know that they're tracking their net worth and they understand what an asset is, and they've earned this money and they've put some money away in their savings account, and they've put some money away in their investing account, and they're giving a certain amount away also to charity or causes that matter to them, and this McDonald's money is coming from their spending that they want to just blow, then great. But odds are this kid has got this extra money, but what he's missing out on is what it's worth and what it's actually costing him. And that's okay. So it's fine. I know it's painful for you now. And of course, kids are egocentric and they can only see what's urgent. They can't see what's important, but just reiterating that over and over and over again, and then talking to them about how it felt, because you don't want it to create a money story in them or create a money wound in them. No matter what they say or no matter what they feel, those feelings are valid. So asking questions like, well, how did that make you feel? And what do you think Bob's relationship to money is like? And where do you think Bob got the money? And do you think that's a better way to handle money than how you handle money? What's valuable about the way you handle money? What are you learning about money? What do you think most grown-ups do when that's been their exposure to money when they're young? How do you think they're handling money? And then what are the consequences of that, do you think? You don't have to hammer them with that whole list of questions all at once, but just really having the question so that they start to just see just a little bit outside themselves. You're not going to get them to the point where they're like Bill Gates all of a sudden at the age of 16. But you'll start to expand their awareness so that when they see Bob with the money, they're not making an assumption, they're asking questions, just even in their own mind.
The net worth spreadsheet and stuff is so important, because rather than it be like a negative thing where you're spending money and your money's disappearing, you still look at your net worth. And as long as that amount is going up, it's just such a positive thing.
Yeah.
Making it a positive thing instead of a negative thing is so important from a really early age.
And kids need a net worth spreadsheet. Your 6-year-old can use a net worth spreadsheet. Your 8-year-old can use a net worth spreadsheet. You're going to sit with your 6 and 8-year-old when they're doing it, but your 14-year-old can certainly manage it on their own. And you can just use Google Sheets, and it can be a shared spreadsheet. My kids use the same one that I give everybody in the Get the Hell Out of Debt program, or anybody that's done Naked Money meetings. The resources are available to you all. But what we do is, of course, it's color coded. So green is go. So all the assets are green. So we want to buy lots of assets. And red is no, that's all the liabilities. And so having them understand the difference is critical. So you can teach them those things. But in the red column, it says really big and bold, stay away from this, or mommy will be very sad. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't say the last part. It just says, stay away from this column, buddy. That's all it says. Stay away from this column, buddy. And it's going to start to teach them the difference between the two, so that even, when they're 19 and 20 and they're out on their own and they're watching their friends take student loans out and get vehicles and have vehicle payments, they're going to be like, wait a second, it's not making my net worth go up. My friend doesn't have any concept of this, and they're going to be 30 years old and they're going to have a ton of pain. All I have to do right now, even though it's difficult, is make that net worth go up by even $1. And so if I'm doing that, I'm headed in the right direction. But yes, that visual is really important. And so you start practicing that at 6 and 8 years old. And I say this, Kumiko, because imagine if you had, from the age of 6, been tracking your net worth, what a different money story you would have today. And it's got to be fun. So when you're with your kids, you get their favorite snacks. I'm picturing cute little dishes with goldfish crackers in them and some applesauce, or I don't know. What do kids eat these days?
I think goldfish still.
Yeah.
I think goldfish.
Ours are into protein bars now and smoothies, but you make it really fun for the kids, and it's part of your one-on-one time with them. I wouldn't be doing this with every kid, but on Sundays, for example, right? I'd start with a 6-year-old and I'd work my way up and be like, hey, let's check your net worth this week. What did you do? What decisions did you make? What decisions are you going to make in the week ahead? So they're kind of planning and they're thinking about cash flow management. They don't need a full budget right now, but they do need a plan. And so we teach you that also. You're going to decide with your children what's appropriate. So if they get $10, for example, what percentage of that is going to be for long-term savings, which is bikes and cars and things that they can't afford right now, but that they're working towards? What percent is towards investing, which is money they're never going to touch? It's never for spending. So the investing is not for houses or vehicles or anything down the road or travel. It's for money bunnies. And short-term savings, which is just, if they want to buy food this week when they're out with their friends, and then the blow money, which is just, I got money burning a hole in my pocket, I want a Slurpee kind of thing. And then if your family is up for it, I always recommend a category for giving, so that they understand that their obligation on earth here is to also help other people in whatever way they can. And that doesn't just show up with time, it's got to also show up with resources. So if there's a charity that the kids particularly value, then you're going to do that one. One of my kids one time forgot his lunch. It was a very traumatic day for him. He still remembers. He forgot his lunch. I didn't rescue him because, again, consequences, which killed me because I thought of hungry children as like destroying.
Yes, totally.
But one teacher gave him a tomato out of her lunch. I know, worst 4th grade snack in his life. And another one gave him a granola bar. But what that did was it made him support an organization that provides lunches for kids. And to this day, he still does it. And so I say that because it's always part of a bigger story. Every consequence is part of a bigger story. And it's not necessarily about what's been done in the past, as we've talked about multiple times on this podcast. It's about who the kids are becoming and what character they're cultivating. So even helping your children build wealth has nothing to do with freeing them financially or making their life easier. It has to do with teaching them the skills and the character necessary to be a person of substance who can give back in a certain way from a position of abundance when they're much older and in a position to do so.
I think one of the other things that we could do as parents is take the Naked Money Meetings quiz, the Money Blocks quiz, so that we know what our money blocks are and we can work on them using those resources so that we're not putting those blocks onto our kids.
Yes.
I had to be very aware of what mine were to not do transference there. And, maybe to even see what their blocks are, because some of those start forming pretty early too for them.
I wouldn't have the kids do the quiz.
Right.
It's not appropriate for children. Nothing we do is appropriate for children. Just so you know, don't listen to the podcast with the kids in the car. Don't put the kid, we're not the right choice for that. And that's by design. When I do workshops and stuff with kids, I show up as a very different version of myself. It's probably a more truer version of myself because I'm in my playful essence, but Auntie Erin does not swear. And Auntie Erin makes it fun and everything is play-based and all of that. But I'm a grown-up and I like inappropriate things. And so I say inappropriate things. So this podcast is for you, grown-ups who also like inappropriate things. But what we want to be careful of is not limiting our children's potential. And when we have a money block that we haven't worked through, it's in the things we say. And we hear this from people that have blocks because their parents influence them in a way. So their parents might have said things like, money doesn't grow on trees, or who do you think you are, or we can't afford that, or any of that language gets really dangerous. The question you want to ask yourself constantly is, what am I doing to expand my children's potential, not limit my children's potential? If your child wants to buy something, you're going to say, well, how are you going to pay for that? Have you thought about that? Not in a mean way or a way that implies that they can't, but in a way that implies that they can, if they can just creatively come up with a solution. And then you give them really a ton of support in order to be able to do it. Maybe they have some old toys they want to sell. And you can help facilitate that because, of course, you're not going to let your children meet strangers on the internet. But if they want to do the listing description and help you take the photos and all of that, you can post that online for them and give them an opportunity. So it's not about we can or can't afford, it's how. It's like, where is the potential in the question? And those questions that we're asking are going to be the things that prevent the kids from having the blocks. But most importantly, you are going to show up for your money. You're going to make money fun. You're going to make money conversations enjoyable. And when you're talking to your spouse about money, you're going to be mindful that there might be little ears listening, and you're going to handle everything with the same kind of reverence and respect you'd handle your relationship.
Listen, we're talking about this summer going through the amount of sneakers we have in this house and selling those. So if anyone has any interest in some old smelly shoes.
Hang on, you're going to get that guy.
I know.
Send me a picture of the feet that were in it. Like,
Okay, gross. We're not doing that. We're
more on that.
I told the boys already. I'm like, I will absolutely help you with this, and we'll list them and post them in all the places, but you need to clean them first. And yes, people, don't ask me for pictures of feet because gross.